Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and I'm kind of sitting in the dark here because I want to share with you a really fun luminary that we're going to make today. Here you can see that it's kind of like a little tent with three sides, and so I'm going to turn it so that you can see all three sides. This one says summer fun. If you're having any outdoor summer parties, this would be great. Here I've used vellum stickers that are the dragonflies and a heart die cut. And if I turn to the final side, here you can see I've used a star die cut and I've handwritten superstar. You could also, if you wanted to use them as name or place cards, you could put the people's names on one of the panels, and that way it could sit and indicate where they're sitting. But how cool is this for an outdoor party? Now, in order to look at it more closely, I think I'm going to turn the lights back on. So with the lights back on, I want you to be able to see what I'm referencing. You can see that these vellum panels have been decorated with die cuts and vellum stickers, and then I've handwritten, but you could also, run your vellum through the computer, and you could use a computer font if you're more comfortable with that. Inside is just these, you used to have to worry about candle flames and paper, but now that they have these flameless candles, it's perfect. So in order to make this, you can see that the three frames are held together and closed with just a bow with some ribbon. And I think this is too long. I'll probably trim that off. But let me show you how to make it. You want to start with a frame. So I started with just a frame that has a rectangular opening, and then I'm placing a more decorative frame over the top so that I have a border that shows all around. So I'm just going to add my adhesive to the decorative frame and go ahead and place it right on top of the blue. Remember, you're probably going to use more adhesive than I do, because when I make the real thing, I use plenty of adhesive. I'm just trying to do it enough so that you can see how to build it. So I want to center this so I have fairly even border on the inside and fairly even border on the outside. You're going to do this, and then you need to look at this panel, and it needs for the candle light to show through. So it needs to be something fairly sheer, which is why I'm using vellum. So I picked up this vellum that has this little subtle stripe to it, which I really like, and I'm going to use that to line the inside opening of the frame. So I'm going to put my adhesive all the way around the frame opening, and then I will take my vellum and place it over the top. And fasten that down. You're going to want to do this on all three of these little frames. You want to do this 3 times because it's going to take 3. You're going to decorate each one. I'm going to stop to decorate one just to show you how it works. The beauty of vellum is that you can see through it. So if you want to write a special message, you can see here, if you want to put somebody's name, you could do that, and then make sure that the size font that you picked will show through. You can handwrite what you want. So I'm just going to take Superstar, and I am going to position it so that I have room to put the star die cut below. I want to make sure that it reads straight with the frame itself, which looks like needs to be right about there. So I'm going to go ahead and just write Super Star. See, I didn't go quite long enough. Let me move this so you can really see a little bit better. And then it's handy, I think it looks better, to add a little bit of shading. So I'm going to go back and just on some of the letters thicken. It looks good, I think. It looks a little more like calligraphy if you leave some areas that are more narrow and then some areas where you add thickness. And I'm realizing I happen to pick up a pen that works fine, but it's a very wet pen and it takes a while to dry. So I am going to hope that as I show you the next steps, I don't smear what I'm doing here, because it may take 15 minutes or so to dry, and we don't really have 15 minutes. So you can see how when you go back and you add some shading, it's really cool. Then I added, in some cases, stickers. There are vellum stickers that can use. I also added die cuts. I think I did the star and the heart. So if I take this and I want to angle it like so, I can see that I need adhesive basically in these corners. So I'm going to put adhesive in those sections. And I'm going to position this so I can read it. And I still like how it looks. You can see it's not difficult to add the decoration and what you want to say on each of these. You would go ahead and do this on all three. Now you need to attach them together. So what I'm going to do is hope that I don't smear that. Place all of these. You want it, because these would be decorated, you want to make sure that they're all going the same direction. All facing up or all facing down. And to make sure that they're flush at the bottom and you don't end up with a luminary where one is longer at the bottom and doesn't quite line up, I think it's good to cut a piece of paper and just use it as a guide. So what I'm going to do is take and place these so they tuck against my straight edge. And I only need to do one at a time, so I'll just attach these two together first. I want just the narrowest of seams. It's like enough so that as I want to fold it into a little tent design, it won't want to buckle. So I'm gonna lay these together with just a little baby sliver in between and put my adhesive, and I'll pull off my adhesive and do the same thing with the next one. Make sure that it lines up, and there is just the narrowest of seams in between these. Now I went and I did tape all the way solid. I added tape here and here and here and here. I'm not going to stop to do that now, but that way you can make sure, pull it up, make sure it's all going to work. So you know what? It is not going to take very long, and it's going to work so much better for me to show you how to add the ribbon and attach it also. I'm going to just stop and put the rest of the tape on. You want to make sure that the tape is not so wide that it's going to show through the vellum frame. But most tapes are not near that wide that you have to worry about that. Okay, so now I've got a nice solid adhesive to hold all these together. There's going to have to be ribbon that attaches on the two ends. So I've cut ribbon, and it's really, I have about a foot on each end, and that's probably a little too much. I'm going to go ahead and place, and this is not as strong a tape as I would use for something that's going to get pulled and tied. I would use like a little piece of packing tape that's nice and strong, and position this right about half the midpoint on what would be the first one, and do the same thing with what will be the last one. It's easiest if we start with ribbon that's longer than you need, because you can always trim off the extra, but you can't start over and make it longer if you start with it too short. So using a stronger tape than I did, go ahead and tape those down. Now to cover all the messiness that's on the back, I cut an extra of each of the frames, and I'm going to fasten it right over to cover it up. So I'm going to put adhesive, and once again you're going to want lots, pretty much solid adhesive. If it's going to sit outside and it's going to get damp at night, you want to make sure you got everything nice and stuck together well. And then just align this with the frame so that you're covering over everything. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'll do the same thing with the other two. So you can see as I'm attaching the final one, now because you're going to be able, at certain angles, you're going to be able to see into this. I think it's nice to have the back side nicely finished too. So when I bring this up, I only have one side decorated, but you can see when I pull these around, I'm now going to be able to just tie the ribbons into a bow and create this really cool tent. Let me go back to this one so you can be reminded. Summer Fun, Vellum Dragonflies, Superstar, and this is using like die cuts, vellum stickers, handwriting, or printed off the computer messages or names. But you can also do photos. If you're not aware, Staples carries a vellum that's meant to go through your printer, and you can take any photo that you want, put your vellum paper in where the copy paper goes, and print your photo, a copy of your photo, onto vellum paper, and all the places in the frames where we have the vellum, you would trim out and have the vellum photo. And so the candlelight will show through the photos of your loved ones as well. You know, luminaries, they're great for lighting an outdoor party or as a night light for a special little one.